Good morning. Have a little bit of wet morning out here. It's pretty nice though. Getting some rainstorms the last couple days and kind of refreshing. Um, a lot of stuff going on. I think this coronavirus thing is taking over pretty much everything. It's total mayhem. I went to Costco yesterday to get gas I was going to get some stuff at Costco when they opened, and uh, no parking. Had to park at the farthest end of the parking lot, and I was with my daughter, and we went to walk in, and some guy was walking out, and he said, unless you absolutely need something, he said, do not go in there. People are pushing and shoving for toilet paper, and I don't understand the toilet paper thing, but I guess people feel like they need to be proactive, and they don't know what else to do, and they see other people doing something, so they do it. And um, anyway, I got enough food in my freezer and stuff to last for a few days for my meat, the meat I prefer. And then if I got desperate, I can always eat other stuff I have. Um, I got to work the next 2 days, so it doesn't matter. I'll be at work. But anyway, it's been interesting to kind of watch all this unfold. And I mean, actually, you got to consider this is one of the most interesting times to be alive. There's so much happening. And on the surface, we see, things, but then I do believe there's a lot of stuff going on underneath the surface. I had talked about Liz Crokin, and I think I'd linked one of her videos, and she talks about Tom Hanks being one of the elite pedophile child traffickers, which I don't know if that's true or not. I do believe she knows what she's talking about, though. I mean, she's a well vetted person. She's kind of proved herself with the information she's come out with, and she doesn't have to. She's not trying to um, toe the party line or anything like that, like mainstream media is. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's interesting anyway. It's interesting the people that are getting the virus. People like Tom Hanks and his wife, and then you hear about the Pope, and you hear about all these different figures. I mean, what are the odds of that? I mean, there's 8 billion people on the planet, and less than 1% are infected with this virus. Actually, it's way less than that that are infected. And I don't even know. I mean, there's statistics. This is another thing, too. All these statistics they throw out. I don't know. Who do you believe? I mean, do you believe? I mean, you can almost just make up some statistics and just go with those, right? I mean, we want to be able to trust somebody, but who can you trust? You know, it's like I had some work done on my car. I took it to Honda, and take it to a dealership, which I know is expensive and all that, but there's a convenience factor there. And with my life the way it is right now, I don't have time to have my car in a shop for a week. Anyway, they said it needed this and this and this, and it did need for sure some of it. But you question, you're like, well, are they screwing me over? I mean, can I really trust them? And I think it's important to know what you can trust, know what you can't trust, and the stuff on the fence. There's nothing wrong with, you know, giving it time before you make a snap decision, and and that's what I think we're seeing a lot of this kind of this sheep mentality where people are just, like I said with the toilet paper thing, is kind of a sign of how mentally unstable people are, and I just they're not using their rational thinking mind. But it's interesting because I think when you're waking up or you've been waking up, I feel like I've been waking up for the last 30 years. Actually, I feel like I've been waking up since I was born because even as a little kid, I knew things were not right. I knew stuff was screwed up. I just didn't, when you're a little kid, you don't know. But I knew things were wrong. And so it's not like you just suddenly know everything. You keep waking up, keep waking up, keep waking up. And I'm hoping, I'm really am. I'm hoping there's some kind of breakthrough. I hope there's some kind of, they call it the event where there's this big, energy wave that comes across the planet, or level of consciousness goes up, or we go to 5D, or whatever terminology you want to use. We raise our frequency, whatever terminology you want to use. It's basically the same idea, and I want to believe that. I mean, I want to believe that that's going to happen. I want to believe that things are going to get better. That people are, and when I say better, I don't just mean materially that we have, more crap, because we already have too much just junk. I'm talking about just consciousness. It's like really waking up, like really being able to see the big picture. And that's what I see lacking so much. And that's kind of been the system controller's whole plan, was to keep things like this. I mean, to keep people in this knocked down state of consciousness. And when you have a situation like 9/11, or you have a situation like this coronavirus, you really get to see how well their programming has worked. And the sheeple just mobs. I went to Costco to buy gas this morning just because I wanted to check it out for fun. And it was an hour before they opened, and there was already a line of people. It wasn't a big line, but it was a line of people to get into the store an hour before they opened, which honestly, I mean, if you really need something, I guess that's what you got to do. And I'm not judging those people, don't get me wrong. I mean, if you got a family like I do, there's certain things you have to have. And these people with this hoarding, with all the hoarding that's going on and stuff, are creating scarcities that are really totally unnecessary. And that's what I'm talking about. I mean, people like filling up their gas, and they're filling up extra jugs of gas because it's a coronavirus. I mean, give me a break. I mean, it's just dumb. It just creates it, it just creates problems for people that are, like I said, people that have families, old, elderly, people who have health conditions. I mean, they can't fight for the resources. They don't have the strength. They can't stand in line for an hour. They can't, go jostle with somebody to get the last pack of toilet paper. I mean, they're just creating this. They're stoking the fear. They're stoking all this stuff, and it's just kind of. I mean, you have to kind of sit back and watch it and go, wow, this is really interesting. I mean, I was sitting there with my wife last night. We were talking about how this is kind of like going to be, something we'll look back on and go, wow, remember 2020? What a crazy year. When it ain't even over yet. I mean, we're just 3 months in, so it's just going to get weirder and weirder as it goes, I'm thinking. And this is just one trick they're going to pull out. They're going to pull out more. It'll be coronavirus. It'll be something else. I mean, we had, Russia. We had impeachment. You know, Now we got coronavirus. I mean, I don't know. I guess they'll go back to Russia. They'll go back to, I don't know what they'll do. I don't know what they'll do next. It's just so insane. But we just got to keep our heads up. And I've been watching this show on World War II and on Netflix, and it's worth checking out. It's a lot of information that I've never heard before. It's a different kind of angle they're running on it. Of course, it's Netflix, so it's not something I would love to have, but my family wants to have it. I would have got rid of it a long time ago. But anyway, so this show about World War II is really interesting, and it's just so interesting. You can see where the hubris um, of these generals and leaders, and um, just how they become, very isolated and insulated, and they're in echo chambers, is what they're in. And there was an opportunity in World War II where they left after when the Germans were invading France. France was totally prepared. They had the Maginot Line. They had a bigger army, a more well-equipped, better trained army than Germany. And Germany came, with their blitzkrieg, because that was really the only chance they had to win, was some crazy, push. And that's what they did. And the French were completely unprepared for that. And they were saying that before that happened, the French had seen, they had reconnaissance planes that flew over, and the Germans had gotten a big giant traffic jam, and they were trying to move men and equipment, and they got in this big giant traffic jam. It reminded me of the Highway of Death in the Gulf War, where they had all those Iraqis trying to get out of Kuwait, and the U.S. Air Force just went in and killed them all. Well, this is kind of the same scenario, and it would have ended the war. World War II never would have happened if it wouldn't have been if these generals would have acted on that intelligence. But when the pilots came back and told them and showed them the reconnaissance, or told them about the reconnaissance, the generals didn't believe it. They said, no, that's not possible. And so they had this cognitive dissonance going on, and they were unable to process, you know. And I was just watching another episode, and they were talking about the Battle of the Bulge, and General Bradley and Eisenhower were. General Bradley was in charge of the area where the bulge was, and the Germans broke through, and they were they were just running amok, and they got intelligence reports, and Bradley was like, "Oh, it can't be possible." He did the same thing the French generals did, but Eisenhower, who was just excellent, and I believe that these leaders are put in these places at the time; they're put in place for a reason. Um, Eisenhower said, "No, there's something going on," and he immediately dispatched reinforcements, and they were able to stop the Germans, like in Bastogne and places like that, where the 101st Airborne dug in and held off the Germans for 2 or 3 weeks. They were able to stop the advance, and if Eisenhower had just said, "Oh yeah, it's probably nothing," I mean, it could have been a different outcome. The Germans might have been able to sue for peace, and it might have been a totally different situation. So I think it's important that we don't have the same kind of cognitive dissonance, that we don't have the same kind of denial when we get information put right in our face. We got to be careful not to just go, "Oh no, that doesn't mean anything." Now, of course, there's the conspiratorial side where you can take it and run with it to the, you know, uh, out to the craziest level you can think of. But maybe that's still right. I mean, you just don't know for sure. And um, nobody knows for sure until they know for sure. And I think at the level of consciousness we're at, it's just about impossible to know. Anyway, hope you have a good day.